We'll start up by setting up VirtualBox. After double clicking on it, it's going to the installation process would start. So basically take the defaults and be affirmative in your choices. So we'll go next, we'll go yes here to install the missing dependencies. So this might not come up for you if you already have these dependencies on your workstation. So this will take a while. You're going to wait for it for a bit. So just be patient. Now, VirtualBox is going to serve as your type 2 hypervisor, and this is where you're going to have all the VMs that are going to participate in the cluster. This is where they are going to sit, and this is where they are going to get their resources from and all the functions that the hypervisor is going to do. So we call it a type 2 hypervisor because it sits on an operating system. So click on finish, click on finish. So the beautiful thing about this lab is that it's an end-to-end setup, right? I'm assuming you know nothing about this and you've never done it before. So next up, we're going to download our image. Just type Ubuntu 2004. You would see the focal fossa. Select that and then let it download. I was already downloading one. This will take a bit depending on how fast your network is. It should take about 20 minutes for me to download. So after that, we're going to carry out our network setup. This is a very critical part of this project. We're going to create a NAT network. Just follow through the example as you're seeing it here. Now you can take the default IPv4 prefix that is given to you, but for this lab, there's a specific one I would love to use, which was already explained in the explainer video on what we wanted to carry out. So after that, I'm going to apply. We're going to apply that, and I'm going to also set up port forwarding, but this is for you to have access from your local machine to the virtual machine without needing to open up the VM on VirtualBox. Now we'll come back here to edit this because this is a DHCP setup. So whenever my VM is given an IP, I'll come here to adjust it to have that connection. So I'm using a host port of triple of 4 twos, that's quadruple two. But I think I'll still come back here to edit this. Just we tweak this a little bit to do that. So next up, we're going to set up the image itself. So the most important thing here, you make sure you do not select an ISO image. The ISO image, leave it blank. We'll do that later. So on the name, you put the name of the VM that you want to create, which is CP1, which is control plane 1, then cluster 1. Okay, so if you want to have multiple clusters, this is a naming convention you could use. So leave the ISO image blank, very important. Then select the type. So we're setting up a Linux VM. So I'm going to go to the type now and choose Linux. Now at the bottom, I left it as Oracle Linux in this, but you can actually go there and select Ubuntu. Okay, you can go there and select Ubuntu. So, but the main thing, just select Linux. The version really doesn't matter, as you would see in this video, but you can change that Oracle Linux to Ubuntu. For the resources, this is a new system I just chose to do this lab with, so it doesn't really have much. So I'm going to leave the defaults of 2 gig RAM, 1 CPU, and 20 gig hard disk. So I'm just going to take the defaults. Now, along the way, we might need to edit this because to suit the requirements for Kubernetes. Okay, so just click on finish. This is a pretty fast process. So you have the VM here. Next thing you want to do now is to mount your image. Confirm that your download is successful. As you can see, mine is successful. Once that is done completely, just come to that virtual machine, come to the settings. Now from the settings page, you can do a whole lot of things. Now on the settings page, go to storage, select the empty disk, click on that button there, go to choose a disk file. So navigate to the path where you stored your image and then open it. Select OK. So this is the basic step that you need to follow. Then all you need to do is to start your VM. So when you start up your VM, this will bring you to a place where you have to do your initial setup. It's just like installing VirtualBox. You just follow whatever you have there. Just pick the defaults. Or there are places where you can make some changes, like to your location, language, and all that. So if you're watching from an Anglophone country, you can leave it as English. Francophone, you select French. Chinese, you select your language there. So just select install Ubuntu. So I'm selecting English there. My keyboard layout, I'm selecting English, US. That's fine for me. So I'm going to go with the minimal installation because I don't want all unnecessary stuff on this VM. This is basically just acting as a Kubernetes cluster. So I'll keep it as simple as possible. Leave the default erase disk, right? Leave the default there. Select install now. Just continue here when this pops up. So this is going to begin the installation process, and this will take a bit. This would actually take a bit. So for my location, I'm leaving it to Lagos, Nigeria, because that's where I currently am at. And my name. So here you put the name, your name. It's going to create this user for you. For the computer name, I'm going to do something quite different. I'm going to change it to something a little bit different, which is CP1, C1, like we discussed earlier. For the password, I'll just select something very easy. Now, you don't really need to put a password here, but I usually like giving students the best practice. So actually put a password, but you don't have to. It doesn't affect this lab in any way. In fact, it makes it even easier for you. So Ubuntu is going to go ahead and copy the files and begin the setup and installation of this VM. Now this VM is going to form our base image, and from here we are going to carry out the installation and setup of all other nodes within the cluster. We're going to see that on another video. Okay, so we'll just give it some time. This will take some time. It could take about 30 minutes depending. So but we are done here. So click on restart. It's going to restart the virtual machine and then bring you into the VM itself. So I'm just making sure that I don't have my disks mounted, which is important. So I'll just press enter, and the machine is going to be loaded up. Now, if your disk is still mounted, you have to manually unmount it, because if not, you begin the installation process again. It's like resetting your system. So I'm going to log in with the password I selected. Now I'm in my virtual machine. So here I'm just going to next, take all the recommendations, click on done, and my VM is ready. Now the most important thing now is to set up your networking. This is very, very critical. If not, this is not going to work. So right now I have a default NAT network, and I can see a default IP address that has been assigned to me. So this IP address has access to the internet and everything is chilled. So this is my NAT network. Now I really don't want this. What I want is to set up my own NAT network that I set up at the beginning of this video. I want to use that. I don't want to use the default NAT network that's been given to me, which you're seeing here attached to NAT. I want to use my own NAT network. And also I want to create another adapter for the internal communication between the Kubernetes nodes. So once I change this to the NAT network, which you're going to see soon, I'm going to come here and edit this and make some changes here too. So what we're going to do now, we're going to shut down this VM and make those network changes that we have planned to do. So this is what is going to actually make your work stand out. This is going to make your work stand out because you are carrying out everything in the proper way. So we've set up the networking initially, but now we are going to now take that NAT network that we created at the beginning and assign it to this VM. So we're going to go to settings. There are different ways to access your settings. You see, I access it through multiple ways. I'm going to go to network here. I'm going to select the NAT network. Where are you? There you are, NAT network. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to select the one I created. I'm going to leave this just the way it is. For this, I'm going to enable the new adapter. So this is going to be a host only adapter. So this is important because we're going to use this for internal communications within this within the cluster. So that's fine. So everything looks good. Looks good. Host only adapter. So that's going to create an internal network for them. That network would have no access to the internet. We're going to see that. So let's start. Let's investigate what we have done and if what we are seeing is right. If it's not right, we'll have to go back to tweak a few things here and there. We'll have to go back to tweak a few things here and there. So when you see any message like this, just allow the access. It's asking you this new NAT network you've created. Should I allow it access to your network on your machine? So that if your machine is connected to a Wi-Fi, do you want this NAT network to be able to use that Wi-Fi within your machine? I said yes. So the base machine, whatever internet connection it has, that network should be able to utilize it to carry out the network address translation. Okay. So that's what I selected there. I didn't use the public. I won't recommend you use the public. Using the public means you're saying that NAT network should have access to not just the network within your local machine that you have connected to, but networks outside. All right. So the private is fine. So I'm going to log into my VM right now. Yeah, everything looks good, looks stable. I'm going to go. You can see my two network cards. This one represents the NAT network. So let's see what configuration is there. So it's taking a bit. We're gonna click on the settings icon, and you can see we have 192.168.50.4. So you got the IP address of .4, and it has a default gateway of 50.1. So I think 2 and 3 are being used internally by the NAT network. Okay, so 4 is the first IP I got here, not a problem. I'm checking the other one too. So for this other one, we are going to have to work on it because this is a host only network. So we're going to edit that and turn it to a manual setup because this is what Kubernetes is going to use to communicate. So it has to be a manual static IP, right? It's going to be a manual IP. So for the NAT network, you can leave it at DHCP. You don't need to change it to manual because as you connect to different um, Wi-Fi's or hotspots, it's going to do that NAT translation. So you don't need to make this NAT network a a a static IP address. So we can check our connection to the internet, which is what I'm about to do now. So I'll just go to some websites, default websites. Let's check out Wikipedia. Very good knowledge base. Interesting. So Wikipedia looks okay. Took me straight there. Everything looks fine. Everything looks cool. Let me open another tab. Commons, free media collection, what could be here, and also the response time is good, so I can confirm that this has internet access, and that is getting it from the NAT. So let's turn off the NAT now, and let's see, would we still have that internet access? My bet is no, but if for any reason you still have the internet access after you've turned off the NAT, it's a quick indicator to go and do your checks, which means that there's something wrong somewhere. You should not have internet access. The host only network is for communication within the Kubernetes nodes. It's not for communication, external communication. That's what your NAT addresses. So if you're doing this check and you're seeing that you have internet connection when you turn off the first adapter there, network adapter there, it means that there's a problem somewhere. Okay. So you have to go and check. Probably the new network you added, you left it on the NAT. So you have to change that to a host only network. So I've turned on the NAT network and I'm fine again. I have my internet access. So from a networking perspective, everything looks crisp. So if you've been following through and you're good, I would like you to give this video a thumbs up. If you've gotten here, you can put a like down. It means you're making very, very, very good progress.